And welcome to the latest edition of It's a LaGreca Show. I'm Don LaGreca, joined by my brother Dave. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're coming out hot. It's Christmas time. It's December 7th.
Wait. What are you talking about?
Well, it depends on where you're watching this. You'll be watching this in San Diego, and it's a different experience than we're going to have probably here in the New York metropolitan area. But, we're going to talk about something that I think let's start with agreeing right now, all right? We're going to talk about the movie Die Hard, 1988. Bruce Willis launched his career. He was a moonlighting star on television, and this just exploded his career. And you've got what I think is, pound for pound, the greatest action movie of all time. And 32 years later, it still holds up. And it is funny, it is poignant, and it's got tons of action. So I think no matter where you land on whether it's a Christmas movie or not debate, Dave, I think everybody can agree this is a classic movie. And if you have an opinion on whether it's a Christmas movie or not, is basically coming from the fact you've seen it 100 times.
Yes. But the one thing, and probably would be my biggest argument, is that I agree with you. It's the greatest action movie of all time. I think it's one of the most well-made movies of all time as well. But it's also the greatest summer blockbuster of all time. So listen to the words I say. Summer blockbuster, because that word summer is going to come into play during this debate of whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not.
Right. It came out in July of 1988, and we all agree is just a tremendous movie from start to finish. It was a movie that had previously been a book. Clint Eastwood had bought the rights to it and was going to star in the movie in the early 80s, but they just were never able to get it launched. And by the time we got to 87, when they began filming, he was a little too old to pass as an action star, and Bruce Willis swooped in. And the thing that we both agree on, Dave, is that there is plenty of David Addison in the John McClane character. And if you're not familiar with David Addison, that was the character in Moonlighting, with a lot of, breaking down the third wall, looking at the camera, kidding on the square. All the stuff that I think works in Die Hard basically came from that David Addison character.
Yeah, and Moonlighting is, I think, one of the more underappreciated TV shows of all time. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And that character, David Addison, was a smartass on that show. And you'll see some of the tendencies and characteristics that you saw play out with David Addison, you saw later on in Die Hard with John McClane.
Yeah, and it became a tremendous franchise as well. Die Hard 2, also set during the Christmas holiday in the airport. I think a very underrated movie as well is Die Hard with a Vengeance. And that's where it kind of stops for me. I didn't pay attention to any of the movies that came out after that, even though they did star Bruce Willis and did okay. But those three movies, I think, are all iconic, and it's an iconic franchise that began in 1988. Now, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but this whole idea of it being a Christmas movie, it's caught a lot of fire recently. They've actually had commercials about it. It's been debated on many different places. But we've been talking about this, David, for 15 years. I remember this first came up on the air for me. Mike Lupica had a show on 98.7 ESPN New York back in 2012. That was 8 years ago. And he asked me, what's your favorite Christmas movie? And I said, Die Hard. And he was just floored. And then I sold him on it. He actually said Love Actually was his favorite Christmas movie, which is a whole nother debate. But I feel like the LaGreca family has debated this long before it became a thing.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the foundation is that we both appreciate this movie.
Right.
You obviously, I don't know whether it's a couple of chromosomes or whatever it is, you're off. And I think that comes into play when you think that this is actually a Christmas movie.
I don't know why you have to get insulting. We're going to have a fun debate, and already you're talking about chromosomes and there's something wrong with me. First of all, I was going to let you start, but you know what? F you. I'm going to start.
Go ahead, start. No, go ahead, start.
Because why isn't it a Christmas movie? I mean, all you really can have, and I'll let you debate it yourself, is that it was released in July and it wasn't marketed as a Christmas movie. And I could buy that maybe when they were writing it and they were making it, that maybe they didn't know at that particular time what it was going to become. But it has all the elements you need. It opens with a Christmas song, Christmas in Hollis. It closes with Let It Snow. It opens and closes with Christmas music, all right, throughout it. It's set, we believe it's Christmas Eve. It's probably the 23rd. He's flying in to be with his estranged wife. They're trying to reconcile at a Christmas party, spending the Christmas holidays in California. That's why the New York cop is in California. So the premise of the movie is the holidays set during Christmas, reconciliation, which is a major holiday point. Christmas, there's decorations all over the place, and they intertwine Christmas in every aspect. Because what gets thrown at me a lot of times is, well, Lethal Weapon was set during Christmas. Yeah, but they didn't use the elements that this movie, ho, 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 now I have a machine gun, written on the corpse in the elevator, okay? Set during the Christmas party as the building is exploding, Christmas decorations are falling all over the place. In the crescendo of the movie, the climax of the movie, he's got the gun taped to his back with Christmas tape. Okay?
That's what was available.
But I'm just saying that, but they didn't have to make that scene showing the Christmas tape. In every aspect of the movie, Christmas is in your face. You never forget that it's Christmas. In any other movie that's set during Christmas, you can forget, you could take the element out of it, the movie wouldn't change. Fundamentally, everything about this movie is surrounded about Christmas. The plot is during Christmas, the reconciliation during the Christmas party, spending the holidays with the family, the Christmas music that is throughout the movie, the references to Christmas. They never let you forget that it's Christmas. So why do they do that? They didn't have to, like, oh, we'll set it during Christmas and leave it in the background. It's in the foreground. It's in your face during every element of the entire movie.
First of all, you're getting loud. There's no reason to get loud. Okay, usually people get loud when they know that they're wrong and they figure by shouting that makes me right. So first of all, cool the engines a little bit, pump the brakes.
As you're shouting, telling me this.
And let's get down to the facts.
Okay.
Okay, you're right. Maybe the background, maybe the soundtrack is Christmas elemented. I'll give you that. But little pieces of things doesn't make it a whole. And this is not a Christmas movie. First of all, again, summer blockbuster. You don't release a Christmas movie in the middle of July. That just does not happen. First, another thing is on Netflix, I just saw a little mini documentary when it comes to this movie. And it had, you know what? It had the director. It had the writer. It had most of the cast. And not once did anyone talk about the Christmas holiday. It wasn't meant to be a Christmas movie because the movie poster itself shows the building. Doesn't show a Christmas tree. Shows the Nakamura Plaza. Doesn't show Christmas tree. Doesn't show Christmas stockings. Doesn't show anything. Santa Claus. Any snow. Nothing that would direct you towards the Christmas holiday. You mentioned Christmas. Well, the movie doesn't take place on Christmas Day, nor does it take place on Christmas Eve. Any good Christmas movie usually ends on Christmas morning. This doesn't even get to midnight of Christmas Eve. It wasn't marketed as a Christmas movie.
Well, because I'm going to tell you why.
It wasn't released around the Christmas holiday.
All right, but Miracle on 34th
Santa doesn't
Street.
appear. Elves don't appear. There's no Christmas presents given to one another. Nothing.
Nothing. It's everything. David, let's take each of your arguments. All right. Number one, it wasn't released on Christmas. It was released in July. Okay. Well, Miracle on 34th Street that has Santa Claus is set during Christmas into the Christmas holiday, into Christmas Eve, was released in October. Traditionally, Christmas movies, quote unquote, marketed Christmas movies, are released around Thanksgiving or at least the first week of November. But one of the most iconic Christmas movies ever was released in October. Also, why do I want to market it as a Christmas movie? It pigeonholes it because we just acknowledged the fact that this is one of the great movies of all time. It is a blockbuster. You pigeonhole yourself by releasing it and making it a quote-unquote Christmas movie only to watch during Christmas. That's the beauty of it. It's a Christmas movie, but they were able to market it and make the blockbuster money by releasing it from a year-round release. But it is grown into the fact that it's a Christmas movie. Now, you mentioned the fact that they had a documentary that didn't mention Christmas, but on the 30th anniversary of the movie, it was actually released as one of the great Christmas movies of all time and marketed as a Christmas movie on its 30th anniversary, which tells you it grew away from the original plan and morphed into a Christmas movie as time went on because they couldn't ignore the fact that there was so Christmas surrounding it. There are ornaments where the treetop is Nakatomi Plaza. So you might have won this argument if we're having a conversation about it in 1990, but there's no question now that it is morphed into something that is clearly a Christmas movie because the elements are too big to ignore.
Don, listen, obviously there's people. Millennials are pretty much the case of this too as well. They're angry people, you know, that angry group of people that aren't satisfied with anything, or they completely spit in the face of tradition, so that they come up with Die Hard being a Christmas movie, because you can't just appreciate something for the way that it was presented to you. This was presented as a summer blockbuster movie, which where part of the story in the background is the Christmas
Part
holiday.
of it.
Now people got to shove it in their face. They got to put a label on it. Why? It's not a Christmas movie, Don. It doesn't take place on Christmas Day. It doesn't take place on Christmas Eve. It doesn't have any of the elements that usually make up a Christmas movie. It's the background. It's back there, Don. It's nowhere near here. It's not here.
But
it's not there. It's there. It's in the back.
All right, you're yelling too. It's first of all, it's not in the back. It's in your face at all times. It's Christmas. It's the time of miracles. Everything, every quote is surrounded by
Gremlins. Let me ask you, is Gremlins a Christmas movie? Because that takes place
very well could
at
be
the same time.
It very well could be. They were gifted on Christmas. There's snow elements to it, but there are plenty of times where Christmas isn't in your face, but you could sell that as a Christmas movie. You could certainly sell Home Alone as a Christmas movie, is marketed as a Christmas movie. It is played during the holiday season, yet that does not necessarily culminate into Christmas. Most of the movie is spent way before they actually get to the actual Christmas day. These are arbitrary arguments they're throwing out, like rules that only you set, that every Christmas movie has to have the climax be on Christmas Day. Well, who says that? Who says that?
I'm talking about the person who wrote the movie, the person who directed the movie. The star, Bruce Willis, says it's not a Christmas movie.
But it has become a Christmas movie, and he's just being that guy anyway. Bruce is being that guy. But let's hear from you, because there are tons of people that want to be able to get involved in this. And listen, we're going to be doing this every week. And if you want to get in touch with the show, obviously we're not live right now because we're on YouTube, but you can get involved in this. We're always going to tweet out on both of our social medias. Mine is at Don LaGreca, straightforward, DonLagreca. And my brother is at David LaGreca1. And hashtag everything with It's a LaGreca Show. And we would be able to read what you have to say here. Tim is on your side. He says the debate on whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie will go until the end of time, in my opinion. And in my opinion, I say it's an action film loosely based on the holiday season, which probably a bunch of other movies fall into that category too. Yes, Lethal Weapon, set during Christmas, but it's not in your face. When you say loosely based, it's not loosely based. You have to agree, it's the foundation of the story. It is everywhere in that movie.
What he do? He's trying to save his wife from terrorists that are taking over the building. What does that have to do at all with the Christmas holiday? At all?
I just said to you.
There has that storyline and plot has nothing to do with the Christmas holiday.
It has everything to do with the Christmas holiday because they knew that the building would be relatively empty because it was Christmas. He is in California to be there with his family for Christmas for the reconciliation of their marriage. Here's what Tom says. It's a Christmas movie, not only because of when it takes place or the abundance of Santa hats, but it now also airs on multiple networks every year around Christmas time. This hasn't been a debate for a while now, in my opinion. Joseph says, I believe it's a Christmas movie. The decorations are up and Christmas is mentioned in the movie. Constantly mentioned. You can't say it's just part of the background.
Don, so you're talking about because of the day or around that it is, that makes it the movie I mean, you could say that about anything. So if something happens at Labor Day, around Labor Day, and Labor Day is mentioned, that makes it a Labor Day movie?
Because there's no such thing as a Labor Day movie. Okay?
I just said it now.
It's not a Labor Day. But nobody has ever said it's Labor Day.
And by your line of thinking, and the frauds that follow you on Twitter is that if I say Labor Day, right now I've said Labor Day 17 times. So this show is a Labor Day show. So people should watch this show on Labor Day because I mentioned
now,
Labor
now
Day
you're being an ass.
17
No, seriously.
times.
Now you're being an ass because that's not a thing. There's no such thing as a Labor Day movie. Okay, it's not a Labor Day movie. It's a holiday movie. They don't have Labor Day movies or summer movies. This is you got to realize that there's no reason to put as much Christmas in that unless it had the ability to become a Christmas movie. Lethal Weapon is set during the Christmas holiday. And there are aspects and there are moments where you're reminded that it's during Christmas. You know, Mel Gibson says, especially during the silly season. And obviously when they've got to defend the house, the Christmas tree is up and all that. All right. That is not a Christmas movie because it's not in your face where every single element. They would not let you go more than a minute to remind you that it's during Christmas. Again, you said there's nothing but Santa hats all over. So, yeah, they put one on the corpse. No, they put one on the corpse just to remind you, oh, by the way, it's also still Christmas. All right?
Yes.
So that's where it is. Now, you're right. It wasn't marketed as a Christmas movie, and I would suggest that's probably the case because they did not want it to be just a movie that would work during Christmas. It's very difficult sometimes to sell a Christmas movie. As great as A Wonderful Life is, and it's an iconic movie, doesn't make a lot of sense to watch that movie in July. It just doesn't work. And they probably didn't want to pigeonhole themselves in an absolute blockbuster movie, okay, that we're still talking about 32 years later as a movie that's only going to be shown on Thanksgiving Day up until Christmas. So that still works. But the constant reminding of it being Christmas and how it's tied into every element of the movie makes it then a Christmas movie to where they actually now market it in the 30th anniversary back in 2018 as a Christmas movie. They actually produce Christmas ornaments because that's what it's become. So you might have won this argument in 1992. It's over now. But I'm trying to find people that are defending you. And there are a few. Michael says, I'm sorry, I'm with Dave on this one, which is rare. This is not a Christmas movie. Try to see if there's anybody that actually defends you that actually has evidence other than the fact that they just want to say that they agree with you. But this is good for me. Wetzel says the whole plot is based around the quest to be reunited with his family for Christmas. The action is simply entertainment, but without Christmas, his mission is different. 100% a Christmas movie. I could not agree more. This is spectacular. The people that follow us are tremendously intelligent people. I'm trying to find some. What does your followers have to say?
Most of them agree with you. So I won't read them. I will say this. I have 3 arguments that you cannot have a rebuttal for.
Okay. Go ahead. No, seriously, go ahead.
All right. Because you said they don't want to pigeonhole themselves being a Christmas movie, but it was not even released during the Christmas season.
Doesn't matter. How do you explain?
Don, listen to me, okay? You don't release a Christmas movie in the middle of July in the summer. That just does not happen, okay?
Oh, all right.
Let me finish. You have this problem, and you go to your Twitter followers. I'm looking at you straight in the eye. It was released in July, okay? The lead actor in the movie, Bruce Willis, who his whole career now is wrapped around the Die Hard movies. He says it wasn't a Christmas movie. And third, and more importantly, yes, there is a Christmas party going on. Christmas is coming up. So, of course, most of the movie is in one location. So, of course, Christmas decorations are going to get in the way. But it doesn't take place on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. Thus, those 3 arguments are the reasons why, Don, and everyone that's watching this right now, as much as you want to believe it, as much as you need it to be, as much as you say it is, and if you're loud like Don LaGreca is, maybe, just maybe, you might be able to convince yourself. But when a movie isn't released around the Christmas holiday, it's not marketed to be a holiday movie. And the stars of the movie claim that it's not a holiday movie. Thus, it's not a Christmas movie.
All right.
Period.
Now, let me retort this, okay? Because Graphics Joker, who's a big fan of our show, the Michael K. Show, which you can catch, obviously, between the hours of 3 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on 98.7 ESPN New York. Just ask Alexa, play ESPN New York. He says, Waiting for Santa Claus, released in June. Holiday Inn, released in August. Christmas Holiday and the Cheaters, June. Christmas in Connecticut, released in August. Miracle on 34th Street, October. Now, Trading Places, very interesting. I'm not sure I'd call it a Christmas movie. He says June. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, September. Gremlins, June. There's been plenty of movies that were marketed to be Christmas movies that were released that were not released during the Christmas holiday. I think that's maybe a relatively new phenomenon, but there has been plenty of movies that we would not question being Christmas movies that were released outside of the Christmas holiday. That's number one. Number two, yes, in the roast of Bruce Willis on Comedy Central last year, he did say it's not a Christmas movie, but that's his opinion. Yes, he's the star, but he's also trying to be that guy because he knows the momentum is built towards it actually being a Christmas movie. So I don't think that's enough because I can counteract that with the producers releasing it on the 30th anniversary with Christmas elements on the cover of the release because they realize that it is now a Christmas movie. So I think it's enjoyable. What I'm going to do, because my kids are too young, I tried to do it because they were born on December 5th. It's their birthday coming up Saturday. Don't forget Uncle Dave.
I never will.
It is trying to start the tradition of them watching it on Christmas Day, 20 days after they were born, but I thought that was probably a little too soon. But once they start to understand movies, every Christmas we are going to watch Die Hard and tell me that they're not going to grow up to be just fabulous people because of that.
The movie poster is of a building on fire and Bruce Willis's face. If that's your definition of a Christmas movie, Don, God bless.
Well, things change.
And by the way, of course, my nephew and my niece will be celebrated on their birthday. Shame on you for even thinking that it wouldn't be that way. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorite all-time movies. This is not hating on Die Hard at all. Bruce Willis is one of my favorite actors, and I absolutely love Die Hard.
And I think that was very, very well said. Well, I didn't think we were going to make any headway as far as who's right and who's wrong, but the beauty of shows like this is it's not really about winners and losers. It's just about entertaining and have a lot of fun. So we want you to subscribe to the channel. So if you're watching this, we really appreciate it, but we'd love you to be able to subscribe. We're going to have a show every week. We're going to also have sub shows as well on the LaGreca television channel that we have here. So we've got some really cool things that we're going to announce as we enter 2021. But try every Monday to make sure we'll have a new episode. And this stays evergreen. So this episode and many of the episodes to come will always live on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Don LaGreca. David is at David LaGreca1. And we'll be able to give you updates on what's coming up and try to get you involved as much as humanly possible. And we want to get reaction and feedback as well. You love it, you hate it, whatever it is. It's really about getting interaction with you people because we think we're giving you arguments that you probably are having yourselves. And David, I thought the reaction to this was tremendous. Even though most of the people agreed with me, it's still important that everybody really had an opinion on this, which I think
it's an opinionated thing. Listen, I feel bad for you that you lost the argument. Any sane person that was watching this would believe it. And we'll talk to you next week. Looking forward to always talking to you. You get the best opinions, most entertainment right here on It's a LaGreca Show.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother effers. We'll talk to you next week.